What is up, guys? You got NotTheWorst here, bringing another Black Desert online video, and today we're taking a look at a new grind zone that was recently introduced called Padix Island. It is a duo grind spot in our new 20-hour grind video, silver breakdown for this spot. So first up, where are we? We are out at Padix Island, which is located right here. You can see recommended AP 270 on this with a party of 2 recommended, as it does drop loot for 2 people just south of the Pirate Island, which is all directly north of Etheria, as you can see here. It does have a node that affects it, so if you do link these are all only 1 contribution, and I believe this one was 2. Nope, also only 1. So 1 contribution from Etheria coming up, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 if you want to use the node there. As you can see, I only got up to level 7 while I was grinding in this zone to get the data for it, but that's entirely up to you if you want to do it. It also becomes interesting to work that out when you have 2 people in a grind zone, since it is a duo spot. So next up, let's go ahead and take a look at what we get for drops in this area. Pull up the drop menu here, Padix Island. Okay, so as you can see, it's not a ton of different stuff, but what does drop is very high quality. So we've got blackstones that drop here, ancient spirit dust as well. We do have these ancient platinum coins, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. Black spirit claws, which are completely capped out and priced at 24 mil a piece. We have the blue coral earrings. These were also capped out while doing this. I don't know if they are at the time that you're viewing this, but while recording these, were capped out, as tri-blue coral earrings are used for the HP journal that was recently released as well. And then we have a brand new item, the ethereal earrings. Now, these have been very volatile in price. I've spoken with people from other servers for it. They tend to stay 250 mil plus. On KR servers, they did indeed hit 250 mil before they started settling out in price on NA. I factored these at 225, as that's where they're sitting right now, with some actually listed. They were completely sold out for the entirety of Padix Island being released up until recently, and kind of settling around 225. It may dip later on. NA said that they had them sitting on market around 150 mil, as they weren't very interesting to them from there. Why are these sought after? It's technically a best in slot for specifically evasion. At pen level, it has something like 20 DP, but it has 30 total evasion on it, along with some accuracy to boost as well. So it does have a high amount of evasion, which may open up some other options in using evasion builds, or maybe changing out things like the Centaur belt that's commonly used, or something along those lines. So for our purposes, we did factor these at 225 mil, so just keep that in mind when we do look at the spreadsheets once we get to that portion. So next thing I want to mention is that you do need a specific item from here that is used. So if you see where I'm located here, Padix Island being down this way, I'm actually on the island just above where this little guy, this vendor right here, is. So the first time you come here, you're definitely going to need to go see this guy first, and the reason for that is you will need to have these neutralizers, these mutant Loa flower neutralizers. What happens here is that you have these little pot boxes that are normally blue, and every so often it's going to just, it's completely random, there's no set time for it, but you'll have these pots will then emit this purple gas that's going to go out throughout it. Once that happens, you have to quickly go over to it and use one of your neutralizers on it. If you don't, it'll power up the mobs that you're fighting there drastically. They break through super armor. They can just destroy you in a couple of hits. They'll start to CC you when they normally don't CC at all in this grind zone. So you definitely want to eliminate that as soon as you can. There's also a small chance, once that happens, that you've used your neutralizer, that these snakes will spawn. It is noted in the release of Padix Island, straight from the BDO powers that be, that these snakes have a slightly higher chance of dropping the earring than other mobs. I just want to note that I never personally got an earring drop from a single snake in the time that I was there, and my partner did get one time. All of our other earrings that dropped were from regular mobs, not the snakes. Now you'll also see they're going to drop this mutant Loa flower that's here. You're going to get a ton of these throughout each hour. We found that between the 2 of us, we needed to use roughly 10 neutralizers total, so about 5 a piece, which means you have about a 15 mil cost if you buy these outright. You'll also get these mutant Loa flowers. You're going to get 20 to 30, maybe 15, but you're going to get a ton of these each per hour. So you can totally make these. The caveat to that, if you take a look at the ingredients, you need the mutant Loa flower, which drops from Padix Island. Then you need highly concentrated herbal juice, 20 of those, 35 firehorn, 70 traces despair, and then it'll turn it into that neutralizer that we need. The issue I found with this is that the time that it takes you, since highly concentrated herbal juice is just constantly sold out, the other items are just fine, although I've recently noticed trace of despair going up, likely because of Padix Island existing. The time that it takes you to create the highly concentrated herbal juice on your own, from making the herbal juice to then the higher grade and then to the highly concentrated, is a lot of time. I mean, it takes a ton of time. You could literally just AFK fish, you know, make 30, 40 mil overnight and just buy 10 of these bad boys, and you probably come out, depending on, you know, what you end up pulling your ancient relics. But any other AFK activity that makes money is probably better and saves you a lot of hassle of having to deal with processing the concentrated juice. If you happen to have a lot lying around already, or maybe you do something that requires these as is, you know, you could potentially save yourself a decent chunk of change per hour. But personally, I ended up hitting the point where I'm just like, I will have no problem spending 15 mil per hour to just go ahead and pick up the neutralizers and then do some other kind of activity when I'm AFK, instead of worrying about crafting these actual lower flowers. So next up, let's go ahead and take a look at the rotation that was used. So your easiest way to actually get into Padix is getting up to the node manager at Padix Island, and from here you can just escape, and it'll teleport you into the cave to at least a navigatable entrance from here. Getting to the rotations is honestly just going to take a bit of repetition to get used to where it is. It's really kind of difficult to navigate through the mini map on here to get to them, but once you've done it, you know, 3 or 4 times, you just kind of get used to it. So you're going to come through this little wooden bridge here, and we want to head upwards, and you'll see these are the upgraded new mobs. You'll have a little small round of them here, and then you'll zip through and it goes back to the downgraded mobs in this area, and then we cut a right. And here we have our first rotation. So this rotation is one we ended up using. You will find that you overclear it very, very easily. It only has 3 pulls, and they're very simple. You're just going to go around into these 3 spots from here. So these 3 mob packs die fast, and you will overclear. It does max out about 4.5-ish K trash loot from here because, again, you'll hit that overclear point. The reason we ended up sticking with this particular spot is there are 2 more. One of them is a 2-room type pull that is kind of class dependent and was very, very tricky. I've heard people pulling 6K-ish off of that particular one, but there was like Zerker tricks used to pull that off, which wasn't something we were doing. There's another room, however, that is over here. Now, this one is also a 3.5, 4 pull type room, and you don't quite overclear it, or you get right up to the point of overclearing. It can pull 5K. The issue is that you have a fence that's kind of between these pulls here, and the mobs can easily get stuck in this fence. The more times that these mobs get stuck in this fence and they're glitched in there and can't be pulled out, it's going to reduce your trash loot. So when we look at the sheets, you'll see some of the hours we had to the trash loot was abysmal. That was because we attempted using this rotation while having mobs that were glitched into the fence, so it found it pretty unusable and just stuck with the guaranteed 4.5, despite the fact that obviously more could be pulled, continuing with the overclear. So that is what we're looking at with that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the spreadsheets and see how we did. Okay, so first thing to note, I didn't bother putting in the minus 15 mil, because just depending on if you decide to craft them or not, you can figure your own cost for that for it. So keep in mind that this is costing you roughly 15 mil per person per hour to do it. It actually averaged out slightly less than that in the 12 hours of data that we ended up with. So you can see we averaged between the 2 of us 4.83, so almost 5 neutralizers, which would be 10 total per hour that were used. So this was just individually what was used in each one. He didn't. I did all 12 that spawned that hour. I did, and then it was exchanged later on. So it kind of balanced out that way. As far as ancient coins, this kind of depends on your snake spawns. The number of times that those snakes are going to spawn for you, you're going to get more ancient coins. You can see 132 being the peak, mostly floated around the 70-80 ballpark, a little lower from there on single snake spawns. Also keep in mind, snake spawns are going to reduce your trash loot. The more that you have per hour, it's going to bring that number down quite a bit because you're dealing with snakes. You can see that in the 132 hour, this was probably 3 or 4 spawns. 3,500 trash, this was also at that rotation I was talking about where they get stuck in the fence. Overall trash loot average was 4K. Like I said, it's 4.5 if you follow that rotation strictly. This was broken up, trying out different rotations while figuring things out, so it is obviously much higher. That is possible from there. Black Spirit Claw wasn't completely amazing. We saw a total of 4 drop within those 12 hours. From there, 2 happened to occur in the same hour. Blue coral earrings are extremely common for this. You can see coming out to an average of over 1 per hour, about 1.3 drop per hour. Single hour here with 4, and then kind of consistently 1, and then some 2s to bounce with 0s across the board. Average 18.5 in Loa flowers. Dust was 24.42, but to note there was the dust drop event going on while this was happening, so expect about a 50% lower drop on dust than what you're seeing directly here. It does not drop raw Caphras itself. Right around 50 stones per hour, black stones. It does only drop armor stones. It does not drop weapon stones whatsoever, so these are strictly armor stones listed. Just keep that in mind whenever you're here. Now, as far as ethereal earrings, again, these are priced in, I put them in at $225, so your mileage may vary on your server and what they're selling for. That's what they were selling for on mine, thereabouts. So I did come out to exactly getting one every other hour. For that. So you can say at no point did we have 2 drop in a single hour, a nice little span of 3 not dropping here. That feels a little bit on the upper end of RNG. I would expect this to be more like 0.3 for it, or maybe 0.4, something like 2 to 3 hours you see a drop on it, but I did happen to just come out with exactly 2 hours. So we have a peak drop rate here at 378 million, and this was obviously with an ethereal earring that dropped 2 black spirit claws, 2 blue corals, and then we had a lot of snake spawns in that same hour. So that was just kind of like upper end, a 367 to tag along with it, and a baseline bottom end here at 92 mil. This was literally just nothing happened. So it was an early on hour. There was nothing that dropped claw-wise, no rare drops, no blue coral earring, no ethereal, a little over 4K trash. Well, I think that was the fence rotation before we figured out the mobs were glitching, and that was low. And then there was like maybe 1 snake spawn to get us those 67 platinum coins. Now the coins are marked in at 443K. Each. You can obviously work out some trade buff things and running them to another city or something like that if you wish to do that in between to generate a little bit more money. I didn't put that into the cost for these, as that requires quite a bit more work, so it's not fair to say that cost should be factored into it. We just put it at with the base rate here. This gives us a total average of almost 230 mil. 227.3 is what we came at. This actually was at 240 mil previously when the earrings got sold at 250 mil, but since they were at 225 ballpark this morning, I decided to go ahead and just adjust it there to bring it down because I do expect other servers to not have them at that. So overall, this spot feels kind of like a Star's End in the respect that your low end is not completely amazing, but not terrible considering you use a loot scroll, something like that. And then when you do get the rare drop of the earring, which seems to drop slightly more often than your Star's End earring drops, then you have a really nice hour. So it kind of evens out, right in that 225 ballpark that we see for places like Star's End. So very RNG dependent to an extent, not quite as much as Star's End, because there you just have an earring or you don't. The Black Star crystals aren't worth a ton anymore, and you only have 1 BMC possible drop for that. Here you do have that Black Spirit Claw, which is a guaranteed 24 mil if you decide to sell those, and at least for currently those blue coral earrings, they do stack up and make a little extra money for that. Keep in mind, however, you do have that 15 mil cost, or maybe slightly less if you decided to craft them on your own, but then you have a cost of time investment. So, to bear that in mind with it, we're looking at a 210-ish ballpark for this spot on average. The good news for this is just much easier to do than Abandoned Monastery. You can do this pretty easily with a 269 Kudum setup, and if your partner's at the 316 DP bracket, or if they've changed the new brackets, I think it's 314 for the new one, something like that. They do hit a bit harder than Star's End, so you want to keep that in mind. But any 269 Kudum team can go in and do that, and it's a nice breakup from your usual solo grind type thing. You got a buddy with a little bit of gear, and you guys want to just get into something else, do something else, you can definitely head on over there and at least enjoy the game in a little bit of a different way than what we're totally used to. A little bit of a hindrance with how far out it is. It's not actually that far, just anytime you have to go into the ocean, it kind of feels like it's forever away, but it's not completely the end of the world. So that's it for the silver breakdown. Let me know what you guys think or results you've had in the comments below. I'd be interested to hear from you guys what you have going on, other spots you'd like me to cover that I haven't already, and if you want to check out some of the ones that I have, there is a playlist in the description below. You can head over and look at the other silver breakdowns that I have already covered. It is about time to revamp some of those and update them, as some are over a year old, but we'll kind of get to those as we do. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to like it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you get notifications when new videos go live, and make sure you hit that bell icon so it'll actually give you the notification. It doesn't always if you don't. If you want to catch me playing live, there's a link to my Twitch page in the description down below. I do these silver breakdowns online, streaming them all so you can actually see the hours live, and I cover the spreadsheets while we're doing it live before releasing the video. So if you want to get kind of a sneak peek on what I'm working on next, if I'm working on one next, you can always head over there, drop a follow, so you'll get a notification through Twitch for that one. With that said, that's going to be it for this video. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.